You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, still traveling, and Houston, or in actually West Texas still. And with me always are my good friends,
Jay from the hills of Texas,
and Shannon G in Mesa AZ.
Yeah, there we go. Shannon's the only one back at the house. Is the temperature still hot over there?
Not as hot. I think it was like 106 today. So
it's only
sweater
106
weather for me. Yeah, that's nothing.
Sweater weather. Sweater weather.
More like sweating
awesome.
weather.
Cold.
Sweating weather's good, yeah. Well, Shannon is joining us fresh back from a trip. But before we get started with that, he's got some good news. I think.
So as most of our RC audience knows, there's this big thing called remote ID that's supposed to sweep the nation here in September, and one of the elements of that is clubs that have applied for the FAA recognized identification area, or the FRIA, as the acronym goes. And our club had applied earlier in the year when they started opening it up for us to apply, and we applied through the AMA to do that. But our club president did all that, got all the stuff filled out, and we've been seeing, this club gets it, that club gets it, and we were just kind of waiting, and sure enough, this week we got the good word that our field, the Arizona Maui Precision Air Park, has been granted the FRIA. So for all of our events going forward, it really makes things easier, and you don't need to have the transponder that we're supposed to have if you fly outside of a FRIA. And we've got some big events coming up here real soon. We got the Scale Masters again in October, which I'm actually going to be competing in, and for hopefully a trophy. We'll see. But and of course the Jet Rally, and our favorite event, of course, the Arizona Electric Festival, coming up in February. So it's exciting just to hear that.
It's coming up
yes,
fast.
It is. Too fast.
Yeah.
How long did that take, Shannon?
Well, the good news is, though, yeah. How long did
it take to get that?
Oh, how long did it take? I'm trying to think when Gary submitted it. It was probably February or March. I think we submitted the paperwork, if I recall correctly. So a couple months.
So about 6 months.
Yeah, about 6 months. So it took a little bit of time. Okay. I know there's some that are still waiting, and I've heard there's a couple clubs locally that have gotten it. Casa Grande. I don't know about you guys. Did Sun Valley Flyers get theirs yet, or?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we got ours. I'd have to double check, but I thought I got an email a while back that said that we got one.
Cool.
So they were pretty quick with ours.
Yeah. So I really wasn't part of the process, because it was like right before or like right after I became president is when it happened. Because I kept asking, like, do I need to apply for anything? And they're like, no. And then all of a sudden, boom, apply. And Gary Porter, our current president, jumped right on it, and we're good to go.
Gotcha.
Huh. Yeah, because what I've been hearing from a lot of clubs and from a lot of people on the net, that nobody had gotten their FRIA yet. Here it is that we were about to go kick off in September with everything, and nobody had gotten a FRIA. And so I thought that was
I think
strange that it's gonna.
Yeah, I think it took them a while to figure out exactly, like what they were really going to accept, because I've actually heard ones that didn't get it, for whatever reason. So it's a little, and you always get worried. Oh my gosh, what if we don't get it? So kind of shoots,
Yeah, having dealt with governmental, paperwork, 9 times out of 10, there's a wrong word, wrong sentence, wrong structure, wrong something on the form, and then they send it, they kick it back, go, yep, you didn't get it, and then they won't tell you why you didn't get it. You just got to look back and just be like, I don't understand. And it happened to me a couple times with an aircraft registration. It got kicked back. They kept saying, "Oh, basically what happened is that you know where it says like put your address here, and it's always underneath." where it's, you put your address on the top line and it says state, all that stuff. Well, on their form, you put it under the line. So if it says address, you put underneath the address, not on
Oh,
top of the
okay.
line. So the line on top of it was a blank space that was supposed to be blank. And they
Come on,
kept
man.
kicking it back. And I'm like, what the heck? I did everything. And then finally I called and I was just like, hey, what's the story? And the lady's like, well, I'm not supposed to tell you, but you're on the wrong line. And I was like,
What
what?
they would have to be a moron to be able to look at the thing and go, "Oh, hey, that's not the right address," or it's blank, but then they put the address on this line. Oh, that must be that they just got it wrong. Anybody could have looked at that in 5 seconds and
Yeah.
just
Right.
corrected it. That's stupid.
Right.
Gosh.
But when you're doing it, yeah, when you're doing it, it's tough, because you're just like, wait, I put everything where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be above the line. So
Yeah.
anyway, so maybe that's why they didn't get it. There's always a something in there that they won't say, oh, you did this wrong. They just send it back or they just don't issue it.
Yeah. And I think there were some where, like, how they were oriented, or if they were so far into
Mm,
restricted airspace, they weren't granting them for some
mm,
reason. But I do know that for the jet rally, we put in a waiver to have a higher ceiling. So I know that's something a lot of
mm.
clubs have been doing. So I think for the jet rally, we're gonna have like a 1,200-foot ceiling, which is important
Oh, that's
to ride.
nice.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and we're in Class G airspace, so
Yeah, that's
we're
true.
we're
Yeah.
pretty well aware of
Yeah, you
aircraft.
should get that pretty easily.
Yeah. So,
Mhm. Yeah,
so yeah. So we're
I think because we're still in a class delta, it doesn't work as well for us.
yeah.
They had a contest, an IAC contest one time, but it didn't. They had a couple of things that didn't go well. So they said, okay, we're moving our IAC stuff a little further outside the airport area. So anyway, well, that's excellent news. And then the other side of that is that you just got back from a trip.
Yes.
So why don't you
So
walk us through
so I went to
what
Hawaii with
happened?
my family, and me and my wife, my daughter, and my daughter's boyfriend actually went along too. And we met up with
Very
some of
cool.
my wife's parents and her brother and sister and their kids, and it was kind of a short trip. The whole point of this trip was to go to a luau, because we just went a few months ago, well, almost a year
Mhm.
ago, and we couldn't do a luau. So we actually got to do the luau at the Halikoa. I'm sure you guys are well aware that's the military one. And
Mhm.
reason why I like that one, it's close. You don't have to drive a million miles away because we stay real close to that hotel. But there was a pop singer in the late '80s called Glenn Medeiros, and he had like a really popular ballad song. Well, he was from Hawaii, and here in Arizona, we were the first radio station outside of Hawaii to play the song. So the song broke here,
Very cool.
which was really cool. So, and I was like in high school, and it was a big deal. And actually, when he came to perform, I got to be part of a meet and greet. So I was, I was kind of a fan. It was Glenn Medeiros, I think I said the name of it. But so he's the host of this show at the Halikoa usually, because he still lives in Hawaii. He lives in Oahu, but he wasn't there that day. It was his daughter. His daughter was recently on American Idol. So it was kind of cool, because I when I saw who it was, I'm
Oh,
like,
no
oh,
kidding.
it's his
That's
daughter,
cool.
Lyric. Her name's Lyric. He's big shocker there. Music, Lyric, get it? But
Yeah,
I
exactly.
actually went up and talked to her after the
And you
show. I
wonder
was
how
like,
kids get beat
hey,
up in school.
yeah, really. Oh, yeah. What her
Yeah, no
brother's name?
doubt.
You won't believe what her brother's name is. Chord.
Sunshine?
What is it?
Chord,
Oh,
like music
chord.
chord. Yeah.
chord.
Yep. So,
There you go.
but actually, I went up to talk
Very
to her.
musically inclined
I went
family.
up and talked because she's a really good singer too. I would talk to her. Hey, I'm a big fan of your dad. Oh, my dad's usually here. It's just this is his night off. I'm like, oh, darn. So I said, well, tell him I said hi from AZ. Of course, he has no idea who I am, but
Oh,
just the fact that
y-
I was from here. So
sure.
so that was fun. But the big thing that
That's
we got to
funny.
do also is went to the Pacific, the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum. It's changed names a couple times, but it's the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum, which
Yep.
is on Fort Island. And Fort Island
Mhm.
uh, is still an active military installation, but not to the degree it was during World War II. But if you've seen the movie Pearl Harbor, which I think most of us have,
Mhm.
um, there's a tower, the control tower, and it was getting shot at and things like
Yep.
that, and they recently let people start going up into the tower. So we actually got to do that. We did that tour, and
That's
it's a
cool.
really small elevator. It's a two-person elevator, like two people and then the operator.
Wow.
Yeah, and because it has a weight restriction, so they're like, okay, two people and the operator. And so it's really
Yeah.
slow. Like it's like, I mean, it's better than walking the whole way because it's really a tall tower. But we got to go up there and do that.
Yeah.
And the tour guide, um, I'm pretty sure they were military. I probably should have asked him, but it seemed like most people that work there, were military or ROTC or something. But really entertaining, and he
Mhm.
would walk you around like what took place on December 7th, like where it was, because you can see the entire area. They've got pictures and stuff, so you can see, Battleship
Mhm.
Row, because the Missouri's there, where and the Arizona's not too far away. You can see all that. So they really great storyteller, and I just, some of the people were like, whatever, bored. I'm like, this is awesome, good. I was really impressed. So
Right.
that was fun. And then the pictures, and I could take some pictures. You actually can't take pictures right over the active part of the base, because there's a squadron of
Mhm.
Arleigh Burke cruisers that still is there. Um, Kind of an oddball ship was it's called the Sea or Ship to Shore Connector. So it's basically they took an old, like a tanker, like a oil tanker hull, and they like
Mhm.
cut all this stuff out of it, and it's almost like, you load up the stuff to this, and then load it onto those hovercraft, and they can also like do repairs and stuff. So it's kind of cool because you don't see them usually, so especially in Arizona,
Yeah.
so or Texas, except
That's
unless you're
true.
unless you're in Houston maybe. But it was just cool to see that. And then there was a Los Angeles class submarine was coming into the harbor, and that was cool to see because we don't see submarines here in Arizona either. So
Yeah, you don't see subs very
yeah,
often.
so it was cool. But it was like, oh, you can't take pictures of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang it. But you could see, like, they have a lot of aircraft outside of the museum itself, which is just really look down there. I took some really good pictures of all the aircraft outside, which is just mainly as planes get retired, and helicopters as they get retired there on the island, they just kind of throw
Mhm.
them at the museum. So, and then the museum,
That's cool.
inside, like their big claim to fame now, they've got a great, World War II Pearl Harbor display. They got a Wildcat, a P-40. They got a zero. They have a real Zero. They've got a Kate bomber they're restoring, the torpedo bomber.
Mhm.
It's kind of in pieces. They got a
Mhm.
B-25, but they have the Swamp Ghost, which was a B-17 that landed at Pearl Harbor after the attack. So it was one of those. I don't know if you heard the story, there was a squadron of B-17s that was expected to come in, and that's what they thought was the attack force.
Mhm.
Sadly, it was what it turned out to be. So
Right.
that one of those B-17s landed, and then but this one, then it got shot down, I think, in New Guinea, and it sat in the jungle and the
Hmm.
swamp for 50, 60 years, whatever. And they basically got all the pieces, and it's brought back and sat in their like restoration hangar, but they're not going to restore it. Like it's just there as they found it. So it's just really, really cool to see this, you know, vintage B-17 pseudo, you know, in its natural habitat. So
Right.
it's kind of cool. And
That's cool.
it's fun. So
Huh.
we had a good time with that. I saw a lot of
That's excellent.
drones along Waikiki, because we were like right along Waikiki Beach. So like we were watching the fireworks they shoot off
Mhm.
at the Hilton Hawaiian Village,
Mhm.
and I swear there was
Yep.
a half a dozen drones like out in the water, like over the water, like flying around, getting video and stuff. And like two almost hit each other.
Yeah.
I was like, great, we're gonna have a international incident here, but it was pretty crazy.
That seems to be a common thread because we were up at my in-laws for the 4th of July, and we went out up to the hill. They have a hill that's overlooking the town, and we went
Mhm.
up on the hill, and everybody throws the blankets out, lawn chairs, and they watch all the fireworks because you can see, the big display is out over the college field there, and it was the same problem. As soon as I sat down, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, look at that!" And then once I noticed there was one drone that went zipping by, and then I was following it around, and then when it came back around, it was like a big swarm of them. It was like everybody had
Yeah.
one, and you're right, they were just out flying around, and I'm just like, "Yeah, what are those?" And that's kind of one of those things that obviously they're not in a FRIA.
Right.
I mean, so
Exactly.
they're out just kind of flying over
Yeah.
people,
So
but
come up here next month.
are they going to have, yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. well, I own some smaller drones, but I don't own the bigger, DJI
Yeah.
stuff. But it's just interesting how that's going to work. Jay does a lot more research on that than I do, but it's interesting, to say the least. Well, very cool. Was there
Yeah.
anything in the aviation museum that kind of caught your eye? I mean, you mentioned a couple of them, but I know that when I went through, there was a bunch of really cool stuff. But I don't know if they've added anything since I've been there.
Let's see. So, like I said, in the main display area, they've got a beautiful Wildcat. And I love the F4F Wildcat. Kind of the
Mhm.
predecessor to the
Yeah,
Hellcat and the Bearcat and then all that. But I love that, and theirs is just
sure.
beautiful. They've got a beautiful Dauntless. I love the Dauntless. I got a Dauntless sitting right next to me. That's much I
Mhm.
love my Dauntless. Um, they have a TBM Avenger that they're in the process of restoring. They had a Stinson, like the little grasshopper type,
Mhm.
it
Yeah,
was all uncovered, so it was all open. And the
oh,
guy, like a little
sure.
the tour guide, who was there, um, I hate playing dumb with those guys because it's like, okay, uh,
Yeah,
don't take this the wrong way, but I probably know more than you. He was like showing
right,
my
right.
daughter, oh, this is how this works, and that's how that works, and I'm like, yeah, I already told him all that. It's like the
Yeah,
birds and the bees.
you're
Yeah, I
having
already
to
know,
hear it
Dad.
twice.
Yeah, I already know, Dad. But it was
That's
cool just
funny.
to see that. I mean, as I was like, I asked him some weird questions. He's like, well, "That's a good question." He got all kind of flustered, but
Right,
good guy.
right.
Because I always wanted to be like, you know, my dream job was to be a curator of a museum, like an airplane museum. That was something I always
Yeah,
wanted to do. So
that would be kind of cool.
yeah. Someday. But other than that,
Huh.
I'm
Well,
trying to think
that's
what
kind of
else.
neat.
Yeah, they had they had a lot of the jets outside because they had an event, so they in the one hangar. So they had a lot of
Mhm.
they have a beautiful F-18. They've got an F-14, of course. Trying to think what else. Um, they got a nice F-105. I love the F-105, and just
Mhm.
I just love old Cold War jets. I'm sure we all do,
Sure.
but yeah, the Wildcat's pretty much my favorite, and then of course we raided the gift shop for all kinds of cool stuff.
Oh, there
I
you
was
go.
looking for the hat. I had gotten they had a lot of Pan Am stuff, the old,
Mhm.
and I gotten a pretty cool hat, but I can't find it. I don't know where it went. I was like, that's
Oh,
what I went to
no.
get when I hopped off for a while. I was like,
There's a
where'd
guy
my
in the
Pan Am hat
TSA
go?
sporting a new hat.
Now I've had it since I came home. I
That's
worked it
right.
tonight, so I was like, it's here somewhere. Hopefully the
Uh,
dog didn't get it.
there you go. That's funny. Well, because I knew you were in Hawaii a few days ago, I had a little bit of time in a hotel, and I was kind of bored, and so I actually wound up watching the final countdown,
That was on
and
yesterday.
Oh,
which
classic
I
love
movie.
that
watched it
movie.
yesterday on
Yeah, yeah.
Sony Classics. Yeah, I
Did you?
love that movie.
Yeah, it was an awesome movie. There's some goofy stuff in it, but for the time, it was kind of neat. And anyway, it
Oh,
was.
just
I remembered. I was like, "Oh, Shannon's going to
yeah.
Hawaii," so it was on. I
I
wanted
think my
to.
favorite plane, I love the
Cool.
F-14, but my favorite plane is the Crusader, and they have like the reconnaissance Crusader that they send over Pearl Harbor, and it's just like
Hmm.
to see a real Crusader
Yeah,
fly,
Pearl
you
Harbor.
know, and it just just like I'd
Yeah,
love to do that.
yeah. I the only bad news is that they used, I think, a T6 Texan in that movie instead of an actual Japanese Zero.
Yeah, well, it's the same ones they've used in Tora, and
Yeah, Tora Tora.
Midway. It's like
Yeah,
whatever ones they
well,
made.
because there's not very many.
No,
Yeah, there's
no,
not very many zeros out there,
yeah.
but it's
There's a
still pretty
handful.
cool.
Yeah, I
So
mean, the average
still
person
fun.
has no clue
Mhm.
whatsoever,
Yeah,
but, we
that's
know.
true. Well, very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, we do know. So, I know when you were over there, you were texting us some photos. It mentioned that they do have an RC event over there. It wasn't really going on at the time, I think, but tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
so they're on Ford Island, where the runway used to be.
Mhm.
It's changed a lot now, but there's still enough space there. They actually have they had it for a couple years, and of course COVID kind of got in the way. But it's called the biggest little air show in the Pacific, and it's an air show, RC air show they have there. And the last time they had it, which was just back in June, I think it was, they had 40,000 spectators. Can you imagine 40,000
Whoa.
people
Wow,
showing
that's
up for the
crazy.
Arizona Electric Festival or the Jet Rally? Or
Nope.
we thought,
I can't even
we
imagine.
thought, the Warbird event we went to in, back in March was a big deal. This is like 10 times,
Hmm.
if that. Um,
Right.
but it's and like so most of the aircraft are pretty large scale. There's a lot of turbines. There was some big electric stuff too from the pictures I've seen. There's a whole website you can go to, the biggest little air show, I think
Hmm.
.com or something. But they haven't set a schedule for the next one. But what I think we should do is I think really think we should be there, covering it live. Like I mean, just you
There
know,
you go.
yeah. I mean,
We
this should be
should
like
go.
play by play. I mean, we need to be on ESPN or something
There you go.
to do this.
Yeah,
So if anybody out there, you want the best play by play for an RC air show, we're it. By
that's it.
by
We could
far.
go out there. We're looking for
Yeah.
sponsors.
Yeah, we need some. Well, and you've got the
We got.
aircraft, and you've definitely got the aircraft.
I do.
So I think,
I
I don't know
do.
if it's invitation only, but I think you have to like, you can't show up with a slow stick. You know, you've got to have something of
Yeah.
of of
Right. Right.
significance. So I figure, you've got a couple of planes like that. I got one or two. Maybe
I do.
they'd let me show up with. I'd be like down the bench a ways, but. Uh, I just think
Sure.
Park Flyer Podcast needs to be there for that. I mean, it's it's a big deal. So maybe we'll
Excellent.
put a donation box out at AEF or something, and just look for a spot.
There you
I guess
go. Yeah,
because
there you go. Help us
I
get to
just think
Hawaii for the
I
biggest
think I
little
think
air
we're I
show.
think we're ready for like we're the ready for prime time players. I was watching the special on John
There
Belushi
you
today. I'm
go.
like, oh yeah, he was awesome. Like, well, we're better than John Belushi at RC stuff. So let's see if we can get in there.
There
But
you go.
but yeah, it was really cool. I mean,
That's
I
awesome.
saw the videos of it a couple years ago, and they had like 10, 15,000, but this past one it was huge and just and all kind and to get a lot of
Hmm.
local. It wasn't just all our hobby stuff, but the RC stuff was the big draw. I think they had a couple of flybys or whatever
Hmm.
of real stuff, but the RC stuff was definitely the big draw. So let's
Wow, it
look
sounds
at
like
the
a really
calendar.
great trip.
Nice.
But there's only
Yeah,
one
exactly.
caveat to the trip. We all
Well,
came
I
back
knew
with
there was a
COVID.
button in there somewhere.
You got COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember. I got that text.
Yeah. That was my wife. Well,
Uh,
actually, I think my stepfather, my father-in-law had it first. We think because when we got there, they said, "Oh,
mm,
he has got the sniffles and he's got a little fever." They weren't thinking anything about it, and then like he was like delirious when we went out on the we had a catamaran cruise. He's like, "Where am I at?" and
mm,
and then my wife didn't feel good for
right.
half the trip, and then I started feeling kind of lousy, and my daughter did. I was like, so when we came back, we all tested positive. So my daughter's boyfriend actually stayed here. His parents basically kicked him out, said, "You stay there until you clear." so, so he moved in for a couple
Oh
days,
wow.
which is fine. He's a good guy. We love him. He's great. So no, wasn't a big
Well,
deal,
good.
but yeah, so we're all better now. It's been over a week, but yeah, it was just kind of like
Excellent.
really.
That is
Yeah.
crappy. So that's one of those things, unfortunately, you have to kind of deal with
Yep.
it. Well, I will tell you that during the recording of this podcast, we want to give a special shout out to all of the people over on Maui.
Hmm.
There's been some devastation over there with the fires. It's all in the news media, and our hearts definitely go out to the people of Maui and to anyone that lost a loved one, or definitely those that have lost their lives. I
Yeah.
mean, as far as everything they own has been wiped out in the fire. So
You know,
it's as much fun as Shannon had in Hawaii over in Oahu. It definitely pains us to hear the devastation in Maui. So we want definitely to give a shout out to those
by all
over
means.
there and let you know that you're in our hearts and our prayers.
And it was we were there
So.
when it was happening, and the emergency broadcast
Mhm.
system was going off pretty regularly, and you know. You just don't realize because they weren't showing pictures. They were, you weren't seeing anything. You just kept getting this.
Mhm.
If you live in this area, because of high winds and fire, please evacuate. So it was kind of like very generic, and all of a sudden
Right.
it's like, oh, wait a second, half of Maui's on fire, and then everyone's freaking out. But yeah, it was,
Right.
and we were getting ready to go, so we were kind of like,
Right.
we just kept hearing this go off, and it was just on, every channel, and it was for the whole island. They don't
Mm.
narrow it down to one island for that. It's all the same for them. So,
Right.
but yeah, it was kind of scary, and really feel for them. So yeah, our hearts go
Yeah,
out to
for
them.
all the change, you mean all of the islands as
Yeah,
opposed to just
yeah,
one?
because there was a fire because it was really windy. I mean, it was really windy the last couple days we were there.
Mhm.
So even I think on the Big Island they had a couple of small fires that they put out pretty quickly, but they just don't have the infrastructure like we do here. I mean, even though we're ready for,
Mhm.
we've got tankers and stuff, they don't have those over there. They don't think about that. You know, they're worried about
Yeah, you just don't
tsunamis
think
and
about
hurricanes.
wildfires like
Yeah,
you. Right. Right. Yeah, it's definitely a different mentality. It was I saw some photos where the people were chased off of the island and they were all standing in the ocean because that's the only place that they could
yeah,
go. They couldn't get out. They couldn't go up the hill and they couldn't go, because the fire made a big
yeah,
circle and it was either into the ocean or, stand there and burn. So
yeah,
Yeah, I heard that happened to some people who were in a hotel. They had to jump in the pool. The hotel was on
Mhm.
fire and it burned all around
Yeah.
them. They had to jump in the pool.
Well, if the hotel's even there anymore,
yeah. That's crazy.
that's
It's
crazy.
I feel for them. So,
Yep.
but we definitely want to go back.
Yeah, we definitely do.
When there's you've been hearing mixed things, but a lot of people are saying, okay, yeah, Lahaina and a few other parts, they're gone, but the rest of the island's still there, and we still kind of need our tourism dollars. So come back.
Right.
So uh, definitely,
That's true.
I can
Yeah, they want
understand. Like,
people out there, but
yeah, there's still a lot they got to work through. So
yeah, my son and I, our families were out there during Christmas time, and we were just north of Lahaina, so we were at the point
yeah,
up there, and we've gone out there once or twice. So it was just I'm familiar
yeah,
with the area and I kind of know where all that was. So, but yeah, it's crazy, and we definitely want to make sure that it's kind of funny because we've been around long enough that I don't know if Jay remembers, but Houston had that big hurricane down in there, and it flooded everybody. And we had a couple of guests on after the hurricane that talked
Hmm.
about losing RC stuff, and and we kind of did a podcast and tried to help them and sent some stuff down to them because he had this big project going where he was helping some Boy Scouts or something. And we kind of donated some engines or motors and a couple of I think we sent them some foam airplanes and stuff to kind of keep the kids, from they lost everything. And he did a good job. So, as devastating as things are, and when things like this happen, it's horrific. But at the same time, somewhere in there is this spark of imagination and just this, coming together and being able to rise out of the flames and still get things done and accomplished and help those who definitely are looking for help. So we definitely like I said want to give a shout out to those guys and tell them that they're in our hearts and prayers and wish them the best for a speedy
hmm
recovery. Definitely. Well, wow! It looks like our time is up. 30 minutes goes by when you're recounting all of the fun visit from Hawaii. Jay actually was able to fly with Jim after my visit, but I think we're going to save that for our next podcast just to kind of cover some of the things that he went through because there were some antics there, I think, that needed to be addressed from what I understand. So,
Well, good news. He's gotten his dolphin fixed, and we're going to be maiden it this weekend. I think we're going to go out and maiden it. I think that's going to go.
oh, good.
That's going to go swimmingly.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I was a little concerned when I sent that over. That they said the guy said, "Oh, I have 5 available," and I sold 5. It was an eBay offering, and when I sent that over, I was like, "Oh man, I hope he didn't sell out of all of them." But Jay said, "No, he ordered it and it's on its way. It shows that it shipped." And so I was like, "Ooh, luckily." It wasn't that I sent him something that, oh yeah, they didn't have any in stock. Thanks a lot.
Psych.
So, yeah, exactly. Well, we'll be looking forward to hear all about the Maiden. That will get us into the next podcast. But for now, I'm Michael from Arizona.
And I'm Jay from the hills of Texas.
And Shannon G in Mesa AZ.
All right.
We will see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.